Hello there and welcome to Discourse on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. This is that program where we highlight issues that borders our country. I am your host, Priscilla Obasi, and today we're talking about one of the, recently, do I say developing occurrences, right? Because it is still developing. And we're here to lend our voices. We're here to highlight some of the issues. Now, in recent weeks, Nigerians have once again been drawn into a familiar conversation, one where private individuals talk about NGOs, talk about foundations, talk about influencers, corporate bodies, and you name it, where a situation where they step in to fix problems that ordinarily fall under government responsibility. And this is being from schools renovated by private donors to hospitals relying on charity and public infrastructure increasingly funded through a private intervention. Or maybe a critical question to ask now in all of this is, are public-private initiatives strengthening national development, or are they quietly normalizing government abdication of responsibility? While partnerships between government and private sectors are globally recognized as tools for development, Nigeria's experience often blurs the line between a structured collaboration and ad hoc philanthropy, driven by social pressure, driven by politics or publicity. Today, I want to take a deeper look at the situation, not from the angle of personalities or controversies, but from a national perspective. What should private-public initiatives truly look like in Nigeria? What should responsibility, or where should the responsibility lie? Is it in the hands of private individuals or a government? And how do we ensure that there is accountability within this said structure? There is sustainability within this, popular NGOs, and there is equity in all of this. So this whole conversation is, sparked or has sparked from the recent happening on, yes, I'll call it a national issue, right? A said activist, comes up to say, I want to, donate. I want to help the masses. I want to lend my own voice. I want to be able to contribute my quota. I want to have my own corporate social responsibility. And then we also know of a popular influencer, popular Nigerian, also in the forefront of that action, leading in her own space, going about renovating schools, going about feeding the poor, going about rehabilitating people that are homeless. So Nigerians are asking, or a lot of controversies have, sparked from the call-outs and all of that. And where is the government in all of this? What is supposed to be their own responsibility? We will be joined by this conversation will be joined with Solis Omulaye. He is a political analyst. He's also a public affairs analyst. Yeah, he likes to analyze, things in the social space and also the political space. And he's one of the best to have this conversation with, right? So we'll get to meet my guests after this break. Please stay tuned because it's going to be an interesting one today on Discourse. Don't go anywhere. You're welcome back. Thank you very much for still being here with us. Before we went on that break, we told you that we're talking about national development, rethinking public-private initiatives, and we're joined by Solis Omulaye. He's a political analyst. I want to call him also a public affairs analyst. You're welcome, sir. Okay, let's get straight into it. You know what has been happening, right? On the social media space, everywhere, people are calling, people are demanding accountability from NGOs, from philanthropists, from activists, people that have said, okay, I want to make my country better. I want to be able to speak out for the poor. I want to be able to lend to the poor. I want to be able to, do charity in my own little way to the poor. Now, when we talk about this public-private initiatives in Nigeria, what should this concept ideally mean in a functional democracy?
All right. Thank you so much for this privilege again. I would like to say that public-private partnership is not out of place in any nation. It is a good one that usually comes up to support. It comes up to support what the government is doing for the nation. So it comes to fill up gaps because there will always be a big gap in a striving nations like ours, underdeveloped nations like ours. So where you have the private philanthropies, NGOs coming to fill up part of those gaps is a good one for nations like ours and other developed nations or developing nations. Yeah.
We saw the drama between popular philanthropists, King Michi, and part of the reason she came out was to call for accountability of a said NGO owner, talking about very dark man, Martins Vincent Ose, right? She made a call, asking of what he has been doing with the funds entrusted into his hands by the public. And one thing came to my mind, or one thing bothered me in the whole situation. When did we move from demanding accountability from our government to demanding accountability from citizens that voluntarily, come out to play their own part? I understand the fact that some of these NGO owners, or should I call them philanthropists, are with public funds. Sometimes they call for public donations, yes, to help and ease what they are doing, what they want to do. So, are we really shifting the focus? Is what I want to ask. Do we leave the asking our government, asking them to do their own part, and then channel energy towards NGOs, towards philanthropists? Do they really owe us explanation, is the question.
Well, that is the key concern regarding PPP, public-private partnerships, and is also a key concern on having philanthropies and NGOs right in our nations without adequate policies to checkmate them, without adequate policies to put them at the right track. And of course, the key concern is our heavy dependence or our heavy reliance on NGOs, on private partnerships to put things aright in our institution. We now come to a point where we have lost hope in governance, we have lost hope in what the government can do for our community. We have lost hope on what the government can do for our nation, for our institutions, based on infrastructures, based on facilities, and we now put heavy reliance on these NGOs and philanthropies. And that is why our focus is being shifted away. It has become a concern. And it's a nice one that we are discussing it this afternoon, because we cannot always shift our focus on what it should be, which should be our system reform in Nigeria, system reform in our nation, institutional reforms. And right now, because we have lost hope in such direction, we are now heavily relying or depending on NGOs and philanthropists and seeking accountability. I think that is where we've missed it.
As Nigerian citizens, addressing Nigerian citizens, do they have any business demanding accountability from NGOs and philanthropists?
There is a point where a philanthropist or NGO should be called to order, or they should demand accountability from them. Yes. When you use GoFundMe, when you put up an account in a public space for public donation and you tag it for a public responsibility, of course, they should be called for accountability from the people who are the public. So Nigerians have the right to call any NGO or philanthropist who is using the public space to take public donation in guise for public responsibility. There is rights for every Nigerian to demand accountability. Yes.
Ask this: why do private individuals and organizations increasingly step in to provide basic public services in Nigeria? Why are we having influencers? Do I even call them influencers? Social media users. It looks like it's becoming part of a trend right now. It's becoming what do I call it? A job description right now. It's becoming a domain that people want to step into to even make ends meet. Sadly, but that's the reality. People want to, become activists now. People want to become, social media influencers and, the whole giveaways, everything. You cannot even have a social media account now without doing some kind of giveaway per time, per season. People now use it as a bait to either grow on the social media space, to get all the followings and everything, you name it. So how can we regulate that? Do you even think it's okay? Is it something that is permissible as long as the person is doing a certain thing? Or is it outrightly wrong?
Well, what you have put out is as a result of the country situation. The nation is plunged in lot of dilemma. We now have a nation that is suffering from chronic underfunding for institutions like schools, chronic underfunding for health. Okay, let me put it: chronic underfunding for education, chronic underfunding for health, and other basic social amenities that ought to be free and ought to be accessible to all Nigerians. We now have a nation that is characterized with dilapidated buildings and infrastructures. You go to so many schools, or the schools you finished from, the schools you finished from years ago, and you cannot imagine what it is. You can't imagine how it has been reduced to nothing. We have a country where social amenities are not there for the people. Shortage of essential equipment in our health facilities. We have a country with massive corruption terminating developments. So these have given rooms to personalities, influencers to take advantage. If they are not there, if these problems are not there, there won't have been issues for them to take advantage of. But we must recognize that we are in a country that is suffering this menace chronic underfunding of institutions, dilapidated buildings and infrastructures all around our schools, our health facilities, shortage of essential equipment. So this is what is giving people room to go into public funding. And yes, I think because of corruptions and political interference, we have not really sit back as a nation, as a government, to see how this should be regulated. And I think there is need for regulation of what is happening in our country pertaining to the rise of several NGOs and philanthropic groups going about taking advantage of the problems that we're having as a nation.
Thank you very much. In one of the recent trending issues or stories or happenings, it was said that the son of the president is seen supporting, one of these philanthropists supporting to help with government projects, supporting to build schools, to repair spoiled and dilapidated buildings. Is this a misplaced priority, if I may ask you?
Please, I could barely hear you. Your voice is breaking over here.
Did you get my question? I don't know if you got my question. Are you with me? Can you hear me properly? Okay, I don't know if you can hear me. If you can hear me, can I just get a feedback from you? Oh, we seem to be having some network glitch there. Let's just go for a quick break. When we return, conversation continues. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you very much for still being here with us. We're talking about national development, thinking public-private initiatives in Nigeria. One of the things that sparked this conversation is the recent happening where social media users, influencers, philanthropists come out to, push initiatives that helps to support government works. Some of them go as far as feeding the poor, creating homes creating homes for homeless people, and repairing public schools, dilapidated buildings, just so that the ordinary Nigerian, the poor masses, can breathe, in the words of our president. We are talking about this with Soles Omolaye. He is a political analyst. I think one that would give us a good perspective on this issue. Thank you very much for still being here with us, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we went on that break, I asked the question. One of these philanthropists came out countless times to say, my works is being supported by the son of the president, Seyi Tinubu. He gives me funds to repair roads, to repair schools, government schools, primary government schools, dilapidated buildings, to equip the classrooms with good desks and all of that, just name it. Do you think it is out of placement for the son of the president to engage in this?
All right. I'm going to answer your question not only on the son of the president, what he has done, and to say that as a nation, we now have government officials, we now have public office holders having misplaced priorities. Yes, as at now, for the past few years, I have seen some anomalies from government officials. What does a government officials have to do with buying rice in bags to go and share for people? How can a governor procure some equipment and use the word I am donating this equipment to so place, to so place? You are not donating. It is a responsibility for you to do. It's like my children now. I'm telling them that I'm donating school fees to them. No, it is my responsibility. So it is a misplaced priority for government officials, for public office holders, as at the time while in the office, to use the word donating. You don't donate with public fund. So coming back to what the son of the president did, it is also out of misplaced priority. You know that your father is the president of the nation, and the nation is not facing a good developmental stride. In security, we are still having lots of security challenges all across the nation. In health sector, the last time we read on the news how much was released for the Ministry of Health, it was a abysmal amount that no one should think of as a nation. In education, you go to schools and you see children under the tree in 21st century. These are not cases of donation from government official or from a public figure. It is a responsibility that the government should attend to. So having Sheikh Tinubu and others donating to NGOs for such things to be done is a misplaced priority and insult to governance. So I must state it unequivocally that anytime you see a public official saying, I donate so and so, he or she should be corrected. He is not donating, it is his responsibility. And if he is attending to it, he should attend to it as a sign of responsibility, not as a form of donation. There is no need for any government official to be acquainted to any NGO except for policy sake, except for data collection sake, except for monitoring sake. There is no need for any government official to be acquainted to any NGO by way of donating funds to it to go and do the work. Where we have institutions, we have ministries and agencies that are saddled with the responsibility to put up such things. So I will state it clearly that it was a misplaced priority, and it is a misplaced priority for any government officials to be donating to NGOs or to philanthropic groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So let us also address some of the concerns that Nigerian citizens have. What do you think, or in your opinion, what do you think this philanthropist could or should do better, especially with the works they are doing and carrying the public along? What do you think, or where do you think they miss it? Do you even think they are missing it in any way?
All right. It's just that the nation is plunged into corruption. From the family setting to government setting, the nation is plunged into corruption. As I've said earlier, it is not out of place to have philanthropical groups or individuals, private individuals coming to support the government in what should be done. But nevertheless, we have come to a place where everyone is looking for avenue to eat public funds. So if you have no direct appointment to take from the government national cake, they now put up a private NGOs to indirectly take from what is meant for the public. So most of the NGOs, especially indigenous NGOs we are having in this nation, are there to indirectly take or eat from the national cake. That is why they look into government officials to donate into the public purse, which they have created. And because the government is corrupt and government officials are not there to put up policies that will regulate these NGOs or these philanthropical groups, they donate huge amount of money either directly or via proxy to their friends and colleagues, their friends and family members in the name of contributing to NGO purse. So we have to look at a nation where corruption should be dealt with, either officially and even those that are practicing under the NGOs. We need to have a policy to checkmate these NGOs in registering them, and we need to look for a way where all NGOs must state clearly what they intend to do with their NGO. Then we'll now put up a public data collections and monitoring gaps policy that can be used to evaluate these NGOs and to monitor the progress they are making according to what they have stated during the constitution or the making of such NGOs.
Here, or the whole situation has exposed a lot about our system. We heard, or personally I heard, that before you're able to go and make your impact, say you want to renovate a school, it's not even an easy thing. You have to go through protocols, and sometimes you are being blocked from doing that thing that the government should have done. So you cannot do it, the government does not do it, and it just stays that way. Basically because you cannot pass through a particular system or just find your way through a system. So there is an authority to consult or to meet, to appease at every project you want to do, even as a philanthropist, to the public. Why is this not laughable? What do you think?
Well, it all depends on policy. That is the reason why I said today we have transparency deficits in all angles. We have transparency deficits from the government. We have transparency deficits from individuals. From private citizens, we have transparency deficits. If we are serious as a nation, we should have a policy. NGOs should be strategized and focus on particular, even though they need to go into multifaceted philanthropy, they should have focus. Again, an NGO that wants to do something should be a community-based NGO. If you are community-based NGO, it will be hard for any government to restrict impacts to the community, because a government which is not up to its responsibility in putting up some social amenities, and we have NGOs collaborating with community to do such, it will be hard for government to restrict such development. So if we have a good policy as a nation that every NGOs should collaborate with community for their social responsibility towards them as enshrined in such NGO, I think we'll have a long way to go. We'll have a good outcome from what we expect from these NGOs, community-based responsibility. Then, as an NGO, you partner with the community. You partner with the community. When you partner with community, they can as well take up what you intend doing for their benefit to the government, and this will be actualized easier. But of course, as I've said, there are always transparency deficits in governance, and there is transparency deficits in private individuals, as we have seen in this country. So it is going to be a hurdle for most NGOs, as you have earlier put it, for them to actualize what they want. But I think as a nation, if we put up the right policy, we will get it right.
So at what point do we say that philanthropy is becoming more of performance rather than a developmental initiative?
At what point should what?
Philanthropy is becoming more of a performance rather than a developmental intervention. At what point can we say it is clout chasing rather than what is actually meant to do, which is, to intervene, to help solve a problem? What point can we call out, how do we distinguish clout chasing over, the real show of love and humanity to these communities or people?
Well, it's just that in Nigeria, we have messed up a lot of things as a nation. We are in a nation where we have people who are into content creation and as well also adding philanthropic acts into their system. But we have not really differentiated a content creator and people who are into NGO. If we have policies, we should be able to differentiate these two. But then, philanthropism actually entails developments. It is not for clout chasing. Of course, it should be an open one for monitoring sake and data collection sake. Nevertheless, philanthropism is actually for developmental purpose. So those into clout chasing are those content creators. And if as a nation we have a good policy, we will be able to differentiate those who are into content creator and differentiate that work from when they are handling NGO work.
So this is a personal question to you. In the case of the VDM versus the King Michi's case, right? Why do you think the public attention shifts more to personal accusation rather than the condition of schools itself? Why? What does that say about civic priorities and even our youths? Because it looks like this whole thing or this whole drama is being fueled by two separate groups, and these separate individuals are more of Nigerian youths, right? They are the ones on the social media space. They're the ones amplifying voices from either one party or the other party. So why is there a constant shift from the real focus? When you talk about issues that borders on our country, especially when it comes from our Nigerian youth. Does this say anything about where we're going to as a country, knowing fully well that we're called the leaders of tomorrow, right? But maybe you just leave this question. Yeah. We'll go for a quick break. We will come back to answer that question, right? Please don't go anywhere, viewers. Let's just go for a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues. Please stay with us. All right, thank you very much for still being here with us. It's an interesting one, a lot to talk about in this issue because it has been ongoing for a while, and the situation that busted on social media brought, the whole thing to limelight, where lots of Nigerian youth in particular, are arguing. Are we supposed to be talking about, NGOs? Are we supposed to be demanding from NGOs? Are we supposed to be demanding from philanthropists? What about our government? What about our leaders? Are they not supposed to be at the forefront of these affairs, championing and, bringing the development down to the grassroots level? Because my guest mentioned something. He says, when a government official, when a governor, when a president, when a local government chairman does something, it shouldn't be regarded as donation. It is the right of the citizens. It's responsibility. And that's the angle we Nigerians need to start viewing these things. This is not to say that accountability should be swept under the carpet, not at all. But we must address things for what they are. If we're talking about accountability, then let's talk about accountability. But when we're done talking about accountability, then we must talk about the underlying issues. Because as far as I'm concerned, in a country like Nigeria, people have, suffered from lack of development. People have suffered from, communities are still underdeveloped. To imagine that majority of, our senators, majority of our leaders, our House of Rep members kicked against electoral reform because of the fact that there is not good, or we don't have stable network. This is part of the development we're talking about. When would our leaders become responsible enough to know that once it's time, or once you're elected into office, you have to carry out projects. You have to make sure that there is indeed development in whatever capacity you are supposed to serve in. And for Nigerian youths that intend to go into philanthropy whatsoever, or NGOs, starting NGOs, it's important to understand the mindset, the motive, the purpose, because we're in such a social media era that everybody wants a trend. You want to pick up your phone, you're giving that arm to that beggar on the street, you're giving that school bag to this, to that guy without shoes, you're giving him shoes, and the camera is on. You are wanting to make a show out of it, and eventually it lands on social media. So we're asking ourselves questions around the motive. What's the motive? Is it indeed to help Nigerians? Is it indeed to put smiles on faces, or is it indeed to make yourself popular, have the good number of followings so that you can bag endorsement deals? Because it's becoming the situation. It's looking like the situation. In the case of King Michi, as she is popularly called, you go to a primary school, you renovate, and the next thing you're doing is coming on social media to say, oh, my NGO has done this. We made sure we did this. And instead of waiting for the public to give you the applause, you start to compare yourself with some other NGO. So it now becomes a battle of NGOs. My NGO versus your NGO. That way, the purpose of putting smiles on people's faces, I think it's being defeated. Because one of the things that was found as Nigerian citizens went ahead to investigate the situation is that, indeed, whatever was portrayed on social media was not even really the case, because people traced that school, went there to see what was happening, only to find out that it was just a social media buzz. It was not really the picture of what happened, right? So what was the show off for? Why are you having an NGO? We all have corporate social responsibilities. And when you find yourself in a privileged position, these things should come effortlessly. You should be able to put smiles on people's faces, even without trying to receive a reward, right? So it's the corporate social responsibility of every Nigerian to add your quota, to contribute your quota to the public. But when it becomes competition, when it becomes clout chasing, when it becomes trying to prove a point, when it becomes trying to pull someone else down because you're doing it in a certain way, then it defeats the purpose of philanthropy, in my opinion. And I also think that this applies to every other person. And then it shifts the minds of Nigerians from who actually should be doing these things to raising armies, fans that starts to counter each other. It's really sad if you ask me. It is really sad. That's why we're having this conversation. We want to be able to, let the general public know, or even to cry out to the public that systems, structures must be put in place before you come out to say you're having an NGO. What are the criteria beyond the CAC registration? What is expected of you? What is your mantra? What problem do you want to solve? Yes. Sadly, in the midst of this, as I mentioned to my guest, I said it came to the notice of the general public that you're not even allowed to go to a certain place and do what you want to do. You have to go through some kind of protocols. For example, you want to, put water, you want to ensure that there's a borehole facility, you want to plant borehole facilities in places, you want to, reconstruct buildings, you want to make sure that they have good facilities, chairs, computer systems, and all of this. You don't just go to a school and just make it happen. You go through protocols. Yes. And one thing again I need to say on this program is that schools, especially government schools, government openings, government facilities should be very careful on receiving these individuals, because how do you go to a public space, turn on the camera, have vulnerable children videoed? In the process, you are creating a frenzy. You're trying to create an emotional moment. And at the end of the day, you post this thing online and it turns out to be lies. Everyone should be held accountable for whatever action you take there. So these schools, this school authority, the principal, and whoever it is that is in charge of that space should be accountable for whoever comes into that space and makes whatever videos they're making. You cannot just come to a space and act like you're being good and act like you're giving arms and act like you're an NGO trying to solve problems, pay school fees, make all the promises on the internet. At the end of the day, you don't fulfill any of them. I mean, it's important to put, measures to ensure that nobody does this, because at the end of the day, we're talking about underaged, right? At the end of the day, we're talking about minors. You cannot put them in such a vulnerable state just for your clout chasing, just for your own, reputation in your words. So these are the things we should talk about beyond the whole buzz, beyond the whole drama, beyond the whole people trying to look for whose side to stay on, fans trying to attack each other and looking for a winner. We should address key issues. We should address these things so that we have meaningful Nigerians with intentional and productive, purposeful goals whenever they think of things like community development service, whenever they think of things like trying to philanthropy and every other of its like, right? So that is why we're having this conversation. We'll still return back to our guest now because, there are deeper things to talk about in this whole issue. We really need to highlight this. The thing of the fact that this has been happening, it has been happening, and it's just the best time to talk about it. The opportunity to address key issues, showcased itself in the whole drama playing out. One very important thing to also note is the fact that we have key political stakeholders at the backs, of these said individuals, hailing them, donating, giving them support, giving them money. And you want to ask questions like, if you were in the position or if you are a politician, why is it that you have not gone to do this work yourself? Why do you have to sponsor people to do it? Why do you have to give people money to do it? You have you have the you have the name, yes, you have seen these things yourself. So is it not better for a governor or a president or a local government chairman or whoever it is, or a friend of a senator to go ahead and tell the senator to tell his constituency or his local government chairman that there's a problem there, and this person who is in the right position to fix this thing starts to fix it. Monitored, because we all understand that sometimes funds are channeled into these things, and at the end of the day, nothing comes out of it. So we want to have all this conversation. Who are the people to talk to? What are the right channels if you want to carry out community, development projects? If you want to carry out a community service, responsibility, what is the due process? All of this we shall know when we return from this break. joining our guest back on the show. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you very much for still being here with us. We're at the final lap of our conversation, and we've been talking national development, rethinking public-private initiatives. Now, let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with private citizens, helping their communities. We have established that here. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with philanthropy. There's nothing wrong with compassion, giving alms. But there's a problem when charity begins to replace governance, and there's a problem when online outrage replaces institutional responsibility. There's a problem when it is more about cloud chasing, it's more about visibility. Visibility is not a bad thing in a sense, but when the focus shifts from humanity to visibility, there's a problem when it's about the likes, the views, and all of that. It's a big problem. When help becomes a substitute for the government, now across Nigeria today, we see private individuals, we see them fixing school, just as we have established on the program. And while these gestures are commendable, we must ask ourselves, continually ask ourselves questions. Why are citizens doing what government should do? We're still joined with our guests. Thank you very much, sir, for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, if you can hear me, I know that. Okay, so I know that we highlighted the importance to have regulations in the system, be it the private sector, be it something that just regularizes these individuals that come up with NGOs and everything, and keeps them on check to ensure that these works are being done and they are done rightly. One of the things that I found concerning in the midst of this whole drama is the fact that people go to schools, make videos of these children, make all kind of promises and act as though they are doing something nice to these kids. At the end of the day, you go back to find out that they never really did these things. It was just the Amuneke style of leadership or governance, like they call it. So, and you want to ask questions like, are there not principals in this school? Are they not watching these things on social media? How do they allow people to infiltrate the system as such, making it a public show without even creating the impact that they intended to create or they thought they were creating, and fold their hands to these things, keeping quiet, allowing people to gain cheap popularity on social media, whether it turns out to be true, whether it turns out to be a lie, nobody debunks it, nobody comes out to say this is wrong, except maybe another NGO that is trying to counter the NGO comes out to say it's not true, and then you now see people coming out. What happens to these key institutions and these figures that are put in charge of these institutions?
Well, I've said before that the transparency deficits and the corruption menace in our nation has eaten as far as you can imagine. It has eaten into family structures. It has eaten into small units, the smallest units you can think of as a nation. So this corruption has become something that, let me say, it has been imbibed into the DNA of most Nigerians. So you have a principal, you have a CMD or an MD of a health institution, and all they think about is what they can gain today. You have a community with executive or leaders, and what they think about is what they can have from you today. So when you have all these people in place, it is easy for all these corrupt-driven NGOs, corrupt-driven philanthropists to come anytime and give you peanuts for their clout-chasing endeavor. So it all boils down to corruption. That even those that are heading those schools, those that are heading those hospitals, those communities that are headed, they've collected peanuts from all these people who are just into cloud chasing and not actually development. So when you've given them such things, they will not be able to come out and speak properly for the people or for the institution that have been used for cloud chasing. Because personally to them, they have achieved what they want, which is the little peanut that has been given to them. So that is the problem we have as a nation. Corruption has eaten so much into the fabrics of the most little units that you can think of in a nation.
Okay, so let's leave you with this question. That was, apt on. That was quite apt. So if Nigeria were to redesign its public-private framework today, what guiding principles should sit at the center of that reform, if I ask?
I was opportune to be with the Kogi State Ministry of Health, and I saw the framework for the partnership with NGOs, and I was happy with it. Know that Nigeria can have good policy, but executing the good policy is another assignment. Now, we need to have what they used in the Kogi State Ministry of Health is called SWAP, statewide approach. Statewide approach. In this statewide approach, all NGOs who intended to do anything for the state regarding health is usually registered with the Ministry of Health, and all what you intend doing is aligned to the community and structured in a way where all the communities will benefit. In other words, you will not have a porous NGO programs where some community will over benefit while others are suffering. So the state already knows the needs. The state already knows the needs, the health needs of every local government and every community. So all NGOs are aligned to participate in what is needed by the community. In that way, reports are taken, data are imputed, and monitoring is executed.
Fantastic.
So on quarterly basis.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think that is apt, and I think that summarizes everything we have been saying. It's important for government agencies, for government, every, local government, every sector of the economy should have a key goal, a driving goal that, helps to meet even people at the grassroots that helps to meet their needs. And when NGOs come up to say they want to assist, they must have an alliance with the set goals, with the laid out goals. And I think that really makes a lot of sense. I want to say thank you, sir, for coming on the show today. We disrupted your day a bit, but I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you always on Global Television. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. This is not just a program. This is an enlightenment to everyone out there. Be careful, right? Be careful. Nigeria is ours and we can build together. Whenever you see things that are not going how it should go, we must learn to speak against it and give kudos to those that make it work too. Thank you so much for joining us on Discourse today. I still remain your host, Priscilla Obasi, and I'll say bye for now.